Good evening. My name is Mike Malloy and I'm the host of Reflections on East Granby. Tonight our guest is John Rusnock, a longtime resident of East Granby, and we're going to walk through his life with him and share his memories. I'd like to thank you for joining us once again in this taping on GCTV, Channel 16, and remind you that you can view this also online. And I'm looking forward to continuing this process, and let's get started. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Mike.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
All right. Why don't we start out with you? Can you tell us what your address is in East Granby?
My address currently is 7 Tuckahoe Road, East Granby, Connecticut, which is next to the East Granby Farms.
Okay.
Which means I have a 420-acre playground.
All right. Never going to put a dump there, are they?
Never going to put a dump there.
Okay. No. Did you? How long have you lived there?
I lived in there since 1970.
And that was your first residence in East Granby?
No, my first residence in East Granby was on North Road, which is, North Road is a bridge street, and the other end, the Granby side is Canal Road. So North Road changes to Canal Road. So it's probably the furthest northwestern street in East Granby.
Just before that dip and the stop sign there?
Just before the dips and the stop sign. As a matter of fact, my kids used to go swimming at Salmon Brook, which is right down at the bottom of the street there, the canal, on the canal side.
Oh, super.
But now I don't know if swimming is allowed there, but when they were kids there, they were allowed to swim.
Yeah. What year did you move there?
I moved to North Road in 1964. Before that, I lived in Hartford, 3 different addresses. There was company transfers. I lived on Blue Hills Avenue, Love Lane, and Martin Street in Hartford. That's north end. The area that I grew, that my kids and we were there, they were younger. So when they got older, we moved out to East Granby.
Okay, why don't we jump back a few years, and why don't you give us a little background on where you were born? And
okay, I was born in Wyoming, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
71 years ago.
Okay, got that.
and that's where I grew up. Small town. As a matter of fact, it's a very compact town. It was population at that time was growing up was probably around maybe 2,000, 2,500 people at the most.
Okay.
The current population is 3,200, which is still smaller than East Granby.
Right.
But the size was only 1.5, 1.6 square miles. It was a very small, compact town. We walked everywhere. We had the high school there, the middle school there, and the elementary school. So you walked all your grades. No busing whatsoever.
So doing quick math, that was 1937?
1937 is when I was born.
Okay.
I was in, 7 years later, I started going to school there.
Okay, great. And you lived there until, now just geographically, where is Wyoming in the
Wyoming
state of Pennsylvania?
is between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, which is in the northeast corner of, right next to the Poconos. It's was in the heavily mining area, or the anthracite mines of Pennsylvania. My father was a coal miner.
Okay, great.
And that's, he took me down the mines when I was a little tot.
Yeah.
And he said, you have your choice. Either you work here or you get yourself smart and you leave. And so what I did, I took his advice. I said, I don't want to work here. I'll get myself smart and leave.
That's great. Now, how you went to school in Wyoming, and what age did you go in school through in Wyoming?
Most of my class, at that time there was not very many educational opportunities. Most of us went to the service.
Okay.
Most of us went, I would say most of us, went to the Navy, and then after the Navy we got our education, or through the Navy, because in the Navy at the time you could take a lot of correspondence courses, and you can get credits towards college, and then you just continue to college afterwards.
So the Navy was seen as more of the...
stepping stone.
Okay, stepping stone, and it was the service of choice in your...
In our area, yes.
Yeah.
Some people went to the Air Force, of course. I don't think anybody joined the Army. It was either the Air Force or the Navy.
Okay. And what years were you, did you serve in the Navy?
In the Navy, I was in there since 1955 to 1959.
Great. So the late 50s.
Yeah.
No big conflicts going on at the time?
No conflicts. I was at the tail end of the Korean era.
Now, did they actually still have the draft then, or was that...
draft was there. But since I already voluntarily joined, everybody was draft age at that time, yeah.
Okay, so if you didn't join, you still got drafted at that time.
Yeah, or you could have gotten drafted. You had a draft number, yeah.
Potential.
Potential.
Right, right. Okay, so you went to, and after you, what correspondence courses? Did you do that? Did you take correspondence courses?
I was very fortunate. With my educational background, I was selected on a fleet-wide screening to go to a Naval Preparatory School, which is secondary to going to Annapolis.
Okay.
However, I got married instead.
Oh, to Barbara?
To Barbara, my wife. So I had a choice.
Yes.
Of either getting married or going to the prep school, which is then, like I said,
It's a career track.
A career track to go to Annapolis to become an officer.
Right.
I decided that marriage was more important, and I do not regret my choice. I have a great wife, 50 plus years, great kids.
That's great.
I was a good choice at the time.
Beautiful. Yeah. What did you do in the Navy?
I was a hospital corpsman with a subspecialty of an X-ray technician.
Okay, so it's medical primarily.
Medical.
Yeah.
I was medical, and I kept that medical profession, and I built upon that medical profession because then, in my professional life, I was involved in health physics, radiation side of health physics.
Okay.
I worked in a nuclear program.
Just a quick memory from Wyoming, from your childhood. Anything that jumps out at you, or any specific, other than the mines? Obviously, that was probably the center of the.
Well, the mines were focal. I mean, you knew that the mines were there.
Right.
I don't think there were maybe one or two or three of my classmates that did not have somebody that was not a miner,
right,
or was involved in the mining process, or who had been killed in the mines because of mining falls.
right.
That was just a fact of life,
right,
of that time. Growing up, the thing that I knew about growing up is nothing was organized. You organized yourself.
Really?
If you wanted to have a baseball game, you knocked on your buddy's door, and you went down the next street and you knocked on his door.
Right.
And next thing you know, you had enough to play baseball. However, we played a lot of football, and we had a lot of empty lots.
Right. It's a pretty self-sufficient group, huh?
We were a very self-sufficient group, and your self-sufficiency. To give you an example, one year we're probably maybe sub-teens, just before teens, rained a lot.
Okay.
And the streets where I lived had like a four corners, and it kind of cantered down into four sewers. We got the brilliant idea that if we went ahead and plugged up these sewers,
right,
we have ourselves a swimming pool.
to the thrill of the town fathers, huh?
So we covered them over the sewers, and we had ourselves about a 3-foot swimming,
Right.
And needless to say, somebody told us, the town fathers came down.
Right, right.
What are you guys doing? So they didn't unplug it, we had to unplug it.
They made you do it.
Yeah, and there went our swimming pool.
Oh boy, all right. Well, you had it for a day or two, right?
Well, we had it for a couple hours.
Traffic backs up, they got to fix it.
Well, we didn't have to worry about traffic,
Oh, that's true, yeah. Not that much.
In a small town.
Not a thoroughfare.
Not a thoroughfare,
right,
and very few cars. Because you got to remember, in the 50s, not everybody had a car. If a family had a car, that was a rarity.
Right.
Because in our area, in the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area, there was really good mass transit.
Sure.
So, if you want to go someplace, if it wasn't available local in town, you got on a bus and you went to the next town, which had a lot of the stores, which is either Pittston, Pennsylvania,
okay,
or you made the long trip to Wilkes-Barre.
The big city.
The big city, So and that's what the parents did. We walked they did the grocery shopping locally.
Right.
So that's the advantage of a small, compact town.
Right.
You didn't have to rely, other than your 2 feet, to go anyplace.
Sure. Different. Kind of that's been broken up quite a bit in the last 50 years or so.
In the last 50 years, it has.
Yeah.
When we had our class reunion back in 2005, our 50th high school reunion.
Right.
The town has changed, but the vacant lots that were vacant are now filled with houses.
Okay.
So that makes that population shift from the 2,500 to 3,000.
Right. Right. Big
So
boom.
it's not a big bird, a big increase, 500, but it's just the little lots that we played in.
Okay.
Are no longer little lots that can be played in, and that's the unfortunate thing. Now everything is organized,
It's all
and we
filled
no
out.
longer have the local schools. It's now more regionalization. They combine a lot of school districts and they go to a larger school. So now the kids get bused out to larger schools.
So it's a bigger central
Yeah.
location that they bring. Great. Okay, so you went, did your time in the Navy, you got out, what'd you do?
When I got out of the Navy, I was hired into a management training program, and I worked in Fall River, Massachusetts for a while.
Okay.
Then I got transferred to Hartford.
In what field?
I started off in retail management,
Okay.
and I was taking courses in marketing
Okay.
at the University of Hartford. That was
part of the GI after?
no,
This
that was just something
independent, really?
Yeah.
You didn't get any education from your time in the military, stipend or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you got
No.
out, you went to school.
Went to school part-time. I
Right.
worked full-time, went part-time. And then I happened to see an ad for the nuclear program. And my sub-background provided me to get into that.
Okay.
And that's when I got into that. And
So-
I stayed there for 30 some odd years, I worked for GE, combustion engineering for a while. And then I went to GE, General Electric.
Okay.
And then when and it was a nuclear training facility in Windsor, Connecticut. We had a prototype of a submarine there. And I helped train the sailors.
Wow. Now, just to digress for a second, were you on a submarine when you were in the Navy?
No, I was surface.
Okay.
I was surface.
But you were in the sub corps, the
No.
submarine corps.
No, I was not.
So you had no connection with submarines when you were in the Navy, specifically.
When I was in the Navy, no
Okay.
connection with the submarines.
Okay.
As a sailor.
All right.
When I got out, I got involved with the submarines, and only from a training level. I never officially sailed on a submarine,
Okay.
but I trained an aspect of the submarine sailors what they were required to learn.
Okay. So you were working locally here, and that's, I'm assuming, when you ended up in East Granby. You went through the 3 locations in Hartford.
All right.
And then from there you came to
East Granby.
North
And in
Road.
East Granby is when I found out when I got the other job.
Okay. And what did you move on to there?
I stayed there.
You stayed there till your retirement?
As a matter of fact, when the Navy decided to change their training requirements,
Okay.
and they eliminated the prototype,
Right.
I went with General Dynamics, which is electric boat, and I helped rip down the place,
Okay.
decommission the place. And I wanted to take it back to Mother Nature.
Right.
So right now, if you were to go there, all you will see is a flat field,
Oh, wow.
like nothing ever existed there.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It took.
When you consider what was there before.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had actually there was part of a submarine.
Interesting. Okay, so so you're in East Granby, you're working, you have how many children?
5 kids.
5 children.
5 children. Yeah.
Okay. Give me an idea. When was the first one born?
1959.
So 59, you had your first child.
Then 1961.
61.
Then I had 69. No, 63, and then 69.
And you moved to East Granby when they became school age. Is that approximately when?
No, as a matter of fact, when I lived on North Road, I had 3 children.
Okay.
Is when my twin daughters were born.
Oh, jumps you up to 5.
Jumps me up to 5. My wife says, the house is too small.
Okay.
I think we better start looking for a bigger house.
Right.
Claude Price was building houses where I currently live.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let's go there. And that's when Vietz had a working farm. So the house was being built. We moved there. I went from a cape to a ranch. I mean, from a cape to a colonial. And I had Vietz had his working farm. There were his cows and his corn and all that good stuff. And my kids thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's on North Main.
North Main,
The
yeah.
Vietz, what's currently East Granby Farms.
East Granby Farm.
Right.
The kids absolutely loved it.
Right.
It was, Mr. Vietz was a great friend. Kids used to go up there to help milk the cows. He said, come on up here, so I'll show you how to milk cows. Play with the kittens, you know. He had a little pond there that we were allowed to fish in. We also had, and the kids used to clear it for ice skating. Because when I moved in on Tuckahoe Road, I had 5 children. My neighbor had 2. Diagonally across the street, the woman my neighbor had 7. Then diagonally down the street, there was another 3. On our street, there were close to 25 children.
Yeah, right.
So it was just, and the kids all were about the same age as my children, from my oldest to my youngest. So they all kind of went to school together.
Right.
And all through East Granby school system, and all kind of graduated with each other, and then they went out to their diverse ways.
Noisy neighborhood.
Noisy neighborhood, but it was a great neighborhood.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and the kids.
I grew up in a similar setting, so I know there was probably 25 kids in 6 houses. You don't see that as much anymore.
No, and the kids, and the farm was great. And you know, during the winter, with that, they had a beautiful hill there. My kids used to toboggan down it, and so on. It was great. You know, Mr. Vietz was great. He said, I signed a release that he was held not liable for anything that my kids, you know, any personal injury.
Right, right.
So he says, go ahead, as long as they could play, but when the cows are out, I don't want them in the field.
And the beauty of it is that farm is preserved forever now.
Yeah, and my kids love it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my grandkids, they come by and say, they tell my kids, you used to play there. And my kids have great memories from that area.
Right, and for the viewers, that's the site of East Granby Farms now, which is, how many acres is it?
420 acres.
420 acres preserved.
The best purchase the town ever made.
Yeah, seems it's going to get better with time too.
Yeah, because there was originally a proposal to put in close to 300 homes there. Needless to say, what I knew about the land and all that, there's no way that it could support 300 homes.
Right.
Even though it went from there almost to the Suffield line and all. It was just too many houses on and it would really ruin the town. And I don't think the town could have taken 300 homes in there.
I guess it was pretty fortuitous that we had an economic decline in the late 80s. that stopped that development.
It was even more fortuitous that the builder went bankrupt.
That's right.
And the town was able to buy it.
Yeah, I guess Dave Kilbon really jumped on that. It was an opportunity.
And everybody. I was a big proponent of buying it. You know,
the whole town just jumped right on it.
Yeah.
What was the vote on that? It was like 1,000 or 100 to 1 at the town meeting.
Yeah, and that was no referendum.
Or 100 to 0. I'm sorry. It was nobody voted.
Everybody packed the community center. Everybody said, "Who wants it?" Everybody raised their hand.
And then clapped when it was over.
And that was it. I don't think there was a dissenting vote there.
No.
It was the best money the town ever spent.
That's great. When you were raising your kids in East Granby, were you? What are your kids' names? Just so.
Sandy.
Patricia.
David. And the twins, Karen and Christine.
Stick with the K's when you have 2 of them in the
No,
same.
there's K and a C.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't assume, right?
No, a K and a C.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, my son lives in Suffield.
Okay.
Sandy lives in East Hartland.
Right.
David, Patsy lives in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And Karen lives in Nutmeg. And Christine lives diagonally across the street from me.
So they're close enough to keep an eye on you.
Right. And with the exception of 2 grandchildren, all 11 of them are right around. Great.
Keeps you busy. Just thinking back to the times when you first moved into East Granby, what's some most dramatic change that you would ascribe to the town?
The most dramatic change occurred probably in the 70s to the 80s when the population went from around maybe 3,000 to almost 4,000.
Okay.
And then it's up to around.
Creeped up after that.
Yeah,
right?
creeped up after that. It's around 5,200 now, I think.
Okay.
Or 5,000. So the dramatic shift was in the 70s is when the population started going, and that's when a lot of people discovered East Granby.
Okay.
You know, East Granby was really a nice community, out of the way, close to Bradley Field. You had Hamilton, Sunstrand, you know, Hamilton's working, which is, you know, part of UTC now. Now it's called Hamilton Sunstrand. You had a lot of professionals come in there, and combustion engineering was going great. I mean, you had a lot of local, that drew an awful lot of professional people in. Not only to East Granby, but also to Simsbury and also to Granby. So there was this kind of, and then the people that moved there because it's convenient to their work.
So primarily the population growth is what strikes you the most looking at.
Yeah. At the time.
Right.
And then with the population growth, needless to say, the opportunities to get involved into the town management part of it was up there. You can get involved.
Right.
In other words, you could get on the boards if you decided that you wanted to get actively involved and help shape the community.
Right.
And I got involved.
Speaking of which, why don't we kind of give a rundown on the different boards and commissions you've been on?
Well, as you know, the way that you get involved in these things, you have to belong to a political party.
Yep, and show up.
and show up. You know, and I belong to a political party, a
Right.
Republican.
Right.
I'll say a Republican.
Yeah.
And I got involved and from there I got involved. My first board, or really my first involvement,
Right.
was with the library. I was putting away books because this is the way I am. I was,
Yeah. Tidy.
tidy individual. You know, that's what my
You
Navy
got 5
days.
kids, you got to be
No,
tidy.
in my sailing days, you got to be tidy.
They only give you so much space.
So much space. So I was putting away books, and someone said, "You want to be on the library board?"
Right.
And I said, "Sure, I go.
Right.
I'll be on the library if you need me." You know.
Yeah.
So the next thing I know, I'm the president of the library.
Yep.
This is when the library was on School Street.
Yep.
And that became one of my first community involvement things. I was a president of the library for a couple of years.
Right.
Circumstances change, and you gotta. I firmly believe you have to have change of people. You can't have stagnation. I think you gotta have new thoughts and new things
I
come
agree.
in.
Yeah.
So I left the library board, and I got involved in other things. I get then involved in I became on the board of finance. Started off as an alternate. Next thing I know, somebody resigned. I became a full member, and the next thing I know, I'm the chair of the board of finance.
Wow. Yep.
And I committed an unusual thing. When I was the chair of the board of finance as a Republican, I appointed Dave Kilbon, who was a Democrat, as my co-chair.
Uh-oh. Big trouble.
Well, it was big trouble, but since it's apolitical, it was great. You know, and we worked well together as a team.
Great.
Yeah, and since then, you'll have an awful lot of Republican or Democratic chairs with counter coaches.
Seems to be more of a trend, yeah.
More of a trend. But again, I stepped outside the box.
Yeah, well, that's...
And needless to say, and then I went, and after the Board of Finance, it took a little hiatus.
Now, what years were you on the Board of Finance /
I was in the
chair?
late 80s.
Late 80s? Okay.
Yeah, up until about 1990. Then I kind of took a hiatus for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Got involved in the, let's see, what came next? Oh, the Housing Authority.
So you just decided to resign from the Board of Finance, or you didn't run again?
I didn't run. I was 1 year left to go, and I decided not to run again.
Yep.
So I resigned.
Had enough.
Not had
No, you
enough.
move on. Like you said, it's a...
Work schedule changes.
Right.
Work comes first. You know.
Yeah.
Because the first thing we have is family. Second is community.
Right.
So work comes first. If shift, and I worked shift work.
Okay.
Because I was responsible for a lot of things on the back shifts, and we had to rotate. And when my shift schedule changed, it kind of changed one of the things that I was able to do.
Okay.
So I had to kind of change my priorities around it, and it just worked out better.
Yeah.
Then I got involved in the Housing Authority, which was a commission that was set up.
Does that still exist?
On paper it exists, but it's not an active board. We set up myself and a few other people, we set up the initial things because we didn't have one in the town.
Okay.
And then I went to the Water Pollution Control Authority, which a lot of people don't realize, but we initially set the rates for the water and pollution control, the sewer rates.
Right.
And then I got involved in the inland wetlands.
So the the water aspect of it is more just setting the rates for the taxes.
Right, and then after we got, myself and several other people, of course, finally got all the groundwork and the paperwork set up.
Right.
Then we disbanded the board because it's no longer, because then it became automatic.
Okay.
Because sewer rates are based upon water rates and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of worked well. So the board no longer exists. The Housing Authority and the Water Pollution Control Boards they're non-functional.
Right.
Then I got involved in the Inland Wetlands Board.
Yep.
And I've been on there for quite a while. Throwing into all that whole mix was, I'm a member of the Ambulance Corps.
Okay.
And I got involved, I was really the startup on the ambulance back in 1975.
Right.
My wife was very instrumental in she was one of the initial people, the starting point of it.
Right. No, so your wife was involved with that also.
She was involved, never as a writing person. She was in the groundwork. She was on the formation committee. She was the one that went to Frank Rothammer when my neighbor was having problems. And the response from Granby at the time was very slow because they were out on another call. EMS back in the 70s was not as organized as it is now.
Okay.
And the need was there. So she said, "We're going to get an ambulance. You want to be on the course?" Yeah, and I went, and I became an EMT. It was just a natural fit since I was.
Well, you had some background.
Yeah, I had a background
from the Navy.
So I went and took my EMT course, became an emergency medical instructor, technician. Then I became a certified EMS instructor, which means I was authorized to teach anybody in the state of Connecticut EMS.
Great.
And then I eventually became a paramedic as well. So I just got involved with that. I don't ride as much now. Or very
Sounds
little.
like typically you get involved with things and you take it to its highest level. So you're not a slacker. Okay.
I've been involved a lot.
Yeah, you're
well, because of that,
Yeah.
I was back in, I think it was 1989.
Right.
I was Citizen of the Year award for East Granby.
79?
Oh, 89.
89. Okay, great.
Yeah, so I was recognized for my contributions.
Civic conduct sounds like you've contributed a lot.
And then now, currently, I'm involved with the East Granby Center Cemetery.
Okay.
It's another little subgroup.
Yeah.
that's there.
You got like 72 membership cards in your wallet?
No membership card.
Okay.
No, I firmly believe that if you want to do anything, you got to get involved.
You're right.
And what I've noticed in my time in East Granby, back when I first came to town, people that got involved and they stayed with their projects for a long period of time, and they got involved in multiple things.
Okay.
We are now the old timers of the town.
Okay.
Fortunately, there are some newcomers that are in town that are now getting actively involved, and you are one of them. You know,
Okay.
You are involved in things. But like anything else, you have your people who volunteered. If you're old and volunteered, you were volunteered on a lot of boards. It's like when you're now young, you're a volunteer and you're volunteered on a lot of boards.
Okay.
So it's always the same kind of group of people that have this volunteer aspect of their life.
Right.
They get involved, and everybody else doesn't. And then it's the people on the outside who criticize the people who are involved.
Yeah, it's in fact, I'm the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee, and when
That's all right.
Still friends, right? But I agree with you 100%. It's one of the things is when you do get involved, it becomes infectious. You realize what an impact you can really have on the town that you belong to, and the other thing that's always striking is generally the agreement, regardless of the party or whatever your personal beliefs you bring to the committees, that usually common sense prevails.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of keeps people. But it's a very rewarding. It's just a question of whether you have the time. And that, like I said, when I became chairman, that was one of my goals, to try to get more people involved. And obviously, we could use about 50 John Rusnocks in town.
And Mike Malloy's, And what I don't understand is the mentality or the saying, well, I can't get involved because of work situations and stuff
Right.
like that. Well, we all did the same thing.
Yeah, you had 5 kids.
I had 5 kids. And worked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I always try to keep it open and say you give what you can, but try to give something.
Yeah.
Because I think once they start to give something, they realize how interesting it can be if they really get involved. So you've been on quite a few boards and commissions, and you've been involved with so many things. What's the overriding? Well, I won't say overriding, but what would be the number one thing you would recommend to the town of East Granby that keeps popping up in terms of development for the future, goals? What's the biggest, if John Rusnock could wave a wand tomorrow, what would it be for East Granby? What would be the biggest change that you would? I know it's a big question because you like the town, or it's a hard question, but what do you see as an opportunity to make it better?
Well, I think that the citizens, some manner, shape, or form, they got to get more citizenry involved
Okay.
with some of the things. If I had a magic wand, if I had money at my disposal like Bill Gates, I
Yeah.
would go ahead and build a brand new school.
Okay, so the elementary school, right.
You know, I would, you know, say, yeah, I firmly believe that education is very important.
Okay.
But I also firmly believe that you also have to let kids play,
Okay.
be on their own. I grew up with a time when you organize yourself.
Right.
Now the kids are all organized, and I think
Good point,
that,
yeah.
and the kids have a lot of pressures on them, not only from their own peer pressure in school to do well. They're organized. They don't have a lot of free time.
I agree.
You know, my kids, when they came in from school, my wife, myself, says, homework done, get out. When you hear me yell, come in at supper time, you know.
Right.
And you know, and you can see when the sun goes down, that means you're in.
Right.
You know. So.
And they had 30 some odd kids to play with in the next
Yeah,
door, right?
and everybody heard. Everybody was at the same time yelling, supper.
Yeah. So it's a more of a consistent theme, yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I think that if I had a chance, the kids would be able to have an opportunity to do that. East Granby is very fortunate. I think we have to we got to be wise in this downturn of economics.
Right.
And people have to really get the facts before they get misinformed. Get your facts before on any issue.
So to paraphrase, I guess you'd wave at one and there'd be a more informed, involved populace
right.
with an enormous elementary school and a huge playground.
And the kids could go there. That's utopia, you know?
There we go.
No, but realistically,
All right.
we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. But that's a direction. Those are the things that you see as good goals for a town.
Yeah, I think the town, and East Granby has made strides that way, and
Yeah.
they've made a lot of progress has been made in the 30 some odd years that I've been in town. You know?
Yeah, I just to back step a minute. You had mentioned Hamilton. Did Hamilton have? I have a lot of questions about the town because I've only been here 9 years, so it's interesting when you corner somebody like yourself. And did Hamilton, the center shops, did that used to be a Hamilton Standard offices?
No, that was combustion engineering.
Oh, combustion. Okay. Did you work there?
No,
No,
I
you worked in Windsor. You said,
Windsor,
yeah, right.
Yeah, Windsor, yeah.
So that was built as a industrial.
That was mostly offices, and most of the stuff was there. I think was involved in their contracts and so on and so forth.
Okay.
We worked.
So it was offices.
It was offices.
Right. Okay.
Where I worked at the nuclear submarine, you know, the
In Windsor.
in Windsor, we were kind of isolated. We had probably nothing to do with corporate, you know, other
Right.
than their name was on the paycheck.
Right.
But Uncle Sam really controlled us.
So you were like a fully funded government entity.
We were a
almost.
fully
Yeah.
funded government entity that had combustion name on it. When combustion lost the contract and went to General Electric,
Okay.
I was a General Electric employee, and that was it. Our place, most people.
Oh, really? So it just transitioned. The plant actually transitioned from combustion to GE,
Right.
and you just changed companies.
Just changed companies.
Interesting. So it really was a solo.
And when GE came in, they said, "We want you. We want you. We want you. We don't need you. We don't." Need you.
Really?
So yeah. So they were selective on who they wanted.
Okay.
And then the reverse also happened when General Dynamics came in, and they were officially closing the plant. Well, we want you to help. We want you to help. We want you to help. So they selected.
Right.
And like being an old timer, I was one of the selected because
They couldn't fire you. Nobody would know what to do.
No, and also I went through. I knew a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so that was the center of town at the time. It was, and that transitioned into a shopping mall in the 70s or 80s, or.
I think it was. Let's see, combustion. It's probably in the mid 70s or so that they took over there.
Yeah. Now, you must have gotten a chance to meet some of the old timers that aren't with us anymore. Prior, going back to some of the commissions and boards and stuff you've been on. Any interesting characters stand out? A lot of people talk about Rothamer. I've never met him. And
Frank Rothamer. He was the one that was instrumental. He's the one, the first selectman in town.
Right.
He was a former.
Miss Selectman Rothamer, I should say.
Yeah, he was a former policeman out of East Hartford, I believe.
Okay.
And there's he's the one that my wife went to say, Frank, we need an ambulance. He said,
Right.
okay, so if we need an ambulance, get somebody along with you and form a committee.
Okay.
He says, then when you get your, and my wife says, okay, is that what I need? She says, yep. So she went out, start saying, getting the thing. And he says, if you want something, he says, he empowered the citizens to do things.
Okay.
And he was the same guy that used to shovel sidewalks in the morning, you know. He was just one hell of a nice guy.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, good job, yeah.
Now, when you were, are there any other characters that stand out that you remember? There's probably so many that you...
Well, no, it's just, it was just, everybody kind of knew everybody, and everybody just pitched in and made the town better.
Okay, great. When you were up around the Viets farm, they were actually working it as was that a dairy farm?
Dairy farm,
Specifically a dairy farm?
Yeah. Oh, he had cows and bulls, yeah.
Okay, so he didn't farm it actually, it was more hay when he...
He used to go ahead in the field right next to at the end of the street in the Tucker Road was all cornfield.
Oh, okay.
He planted corn.
That was feed corn?
Yeah, feed corn, and
okay.
then he siloed it. And then his cows used to run through there. And if that field was planted with corn, the cows went on another side. The north side was pastured.
Okay.
So the cows used to go walk up there, and then they... Yeah, close to 200 acres that he had there, right underneath there.
Yes.
And so, because the north side was mostly pasture, and he had a north pasture, and then he had pasture that went up the hill a little ways towards the lights. So he had a couple little pastures there. Directly across the street from me was the cornfield. When the corn was cut, cows used to then walk down through there. But
okay.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I wanted to mention to our audience that John actually, we've talked a lot tonight because you raised your family in the area about East Granby Farms, and wanted to mention that John has a chair named after him up there. If you walk up to the top of one of the prettiest spots in the whole place, actually, up on isn't there a little pagoda or something up there? Yeah, where you can sit down, and it's the John Rusnock chair.
That's right.
Right. It's nice to be able to sit in your own chair.
Well, that goes way back. One of my loves is running.
Right.
I do a lot of running, and when Viets had his working farm, I used to run across the field, and he used to be up there, up in the north pasture, way up near the top.
Wondering who this crazy guy was.
He knew the crazy guy. I could be up there smoking a cigar, you know.
Okay, right.
And I used to trudge up the hill,
right.
And he used to say, "He's getting a little slower."
He'd time you.
He timed me, and we used to chit chat, you know. Then I run up, and I run up the trail that's up to the lights there, you know. Then I run the ridge for a while, and then I come back. And so
right.
I had myself a loop that I ran. I had about a 5-mile loop that I used to run through there, and I bushed a lot of my own trails and so on and so forth.
Right, right.
And it's now that trail that I used to run is now the main hiking trail from my bench all the way up.
Oh, okay.
The Brian Spears, Boy Scout and Eagle Scout, improved some of the things because I just had a narrow running path.
Okay.
And this running path was where the cows used to really walk down. Right. So the cows built the path. I just kind of opened it up a little bit, and then Brian Spears came and opened it up, and now the town uses it as a regular.
So it's like a tale of human development there.
Yeah,
right? You had the animals, and then John came along like the pioneer, and then you had a enterprising Boy Scout come in and fix it all up.
Yeah, but and Viets, you know, he's up there smoking a cigar, saying, "You're getting no slower." I said, "No, I'm not getting any slower." But you know, and it was just nice, you know. And that is, you're right. Where that bench is a very nice location.
It's beautiful, yeah.
It's very peaceful.
Yeah. See, you also bicycle, right? I've seen you bicycling around town. So pretty active fellow.
Yeah. I firmly believe that you have to give at least an hour mentally to yourself.
Okay.
By reading.
All right.
Then you got to do something at least physically through the day.
Right.
Run, bike, you know, physically active.
Okay.
And then get involved in other things, you know.
Right. Yeah. Like 60 other things.
Yeah, 60 other things. Right. Well, that's just the way of life.
Activity.
You know?
Activity. It seems to be a common theme when you talk to older folks that you stay active, you keep moving.
Yeah.
And you stay healthy. It's obviously working for you.
Well, it not only works for me is when I go to some of my track events and so on, that I meet other seniors.
Okay.
And whether they're from Rhode Island or Maine or wherever, they all have the common theme: active.
Right.
Stay active, both physically and mentally.
Okay.
And they seem to go hand in hand.
Now, you also, that just reminded me of something else. You're also a referee for,
Right.
what is it, lacrosse?
I referee lacrosse.
Yep.
I referee soccer.
Okay.
And I referee field hockey.
Okay.
I've been a lacrosse official for 42 years.
Wow.
Well, I'll be a soccer official for about the same this. And field hockey I took up about 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm doing that as another sport. I thoroughly enjoy all the sports. And how I got involved with field hockey was I was doing a soccer game, and a couple of field hockey refs came in, some women,
Okay.
and they said, guys got any, woman said, you guys got any time? Well, sometimes we have some time. We're always booked, like any referee,
Right.
you're booked pretty. She said, we are desperate for help.
Okay.
I said, well, when do you play? She said, whenever we get refs.
So like everybody else, they grabbed John Rusnock and he
So
went.
I went to the training camps, you know, and it became a field. And a man doing women's field hockey is a rarity.
Is it? Yeah.
But I'm been finding more and more men now are doing field hockey. And a lot of them are soccer officials that are finding out that they...
Are the rules fairly close?
No, completely different.
Completely different. Okay, so there's no natural connection there, right?
There's no natural connection between lacrosse, soccer, or field hockey, other than running.
Okay, other than trying to keep up with the kids. Huh? Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, the kids are getting faster. I'm not getting slower.
No, I can imagine. You've got when you, I guess, looking back over the last 30 years or so, you've seen, like you said, a population growth. You've seen differences in the generations, and you've been there involved in town to see many of the changes that have happened almost from the government side, basically. If you were looking back, was there anything that the town could have done, not to put you on the spot, but anything that you think they could have done differently to make either for better or worse in the history of your involvement?
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because you're second guessing other people.
I know, and it's tough. That's why I say it's tough to put you on the spot with that. I'm just thinking not so much for the current, because when you're in positions like yourself, when you're making decisions, whether it's on the ambulance committee or the cemeteries or wetlands, you're doing it with the information you have in front of you. Knowing what you know now, looking back, is there anything, without understanding that people have their reasons for making their decisions at the time? I mean, it's a question that just occurred to me, and I don't expect that.
No, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to look at it in retrospect or in hindsight and say, what could I have done on my board to do something different? I don't know. What could have town planners done? I think they do what is best for the current situation.
Yeah.
And it's hard in small government to go ahead and change. East Granby is a dynamic little town.
And it's a good town, so it's hard to really pick anything out.
And you had a big influx of younger folks when they came in the 70s. Needless to say, the schools became a priority, and the schools still are a priority in the town. The town kind of stabilized off. A lot of the people who moved in with me in the 70s and in the late 60s, and we're now the oldest citizens of the town.
Yep.
So we have one perspective.
Right.
And the newer houses, the newer people that came in have a different perspective,
Right.
And they want a more modern thing. But it's kind of hard sometimes to get this flux. And trust me, we had the same problem when I was a newbie in town.
Right.
We had the same problems back in the saying, well, why do you need this? We got along without it. Well, this.
The Vietzes didn't always want what the Rusnocks wanted, right?
Yeah,
right.
Right, yeah.
So there's always that dynamic. I guess,
And you'll always have that dynamic.
Yep.
And the hardest thing that's going to be now is the economic situation now in the year 2008, 2009.
Right.
That has really occurred in that has never occurred in another person's life. I grew up when times were hard.
The shadow of the Depression, the war.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
you know, we had. I grew up in 37, 40. You know,
Right.
and we had the World War II. You know, and we had the Korean War.
Okay.
Yeah, and we grew up with that kind of era. You know, and we never really. We had money was always not there. The big boom era in the 90s.
Okay.
Or in the late 80s, I mean, this changed the dynamics tremendously.
Okay.
We grew up in a saving society.
Right.
And the modern, more younger people grew up in a spend society.
Credit.
And so therefore, you'll always have this thing. And the old saying is that we never spent any money until we had it. Towns were the same way.
It's funny when you say that, because I often think back to my grandparents' generation, which was coming into the Depression, but they came out of the Roaring 20s. And it seems to me, in hearing stories about them, that was a fairly footloose and fancy-free era of the 20s. Mm-hmm. You know, it was probably, you could probably liken it to the 80s and 90s in terms of affluence and the stock market. A lot of people made money, and I think they were probably less frugal than the generation that came after them. So it almost seems like there is a natural cycle. Yeah, and it's a reflection of the bigger economy. Yeah. I mean, when times are good, people tend to be a little bit less conservative financially. And when times are bad, obviously, you know, people haven't spent a lot of money in the last few months. No. You know, they're starting to now, but in December and January with the economic crisis, people really kind of pulled in. So.
Yeah. And it was, when I was a young man growing up, a family, you bought a house that you could afford.
Okay. They were a lot smaller by the way.
And they were a lot smaller. And then when you got more money, you bought a bigger house. You didn't start off. You didn't start off the big house.
Right. More money and 5 kids.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you grew into your fishbowl, for lack of a better right. Yeah. So you don't have. Yeah. No, it's definitely been a change. But it's interesting because you bring that same generational discussion into yet another era, because there's certainly. Now, if you were. I guess the one I'm on the Conservation Inland Wetlands Commission with you, and I notice you tend to be very concerned about the environment. It's what seems to be one of your focuses. Do you want to speak about that at all? What your feelings or your because it seems to be consistent with you. I mean, you're.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You only have one.
And I respect it, by the way. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If you can't leave a better place than you got,
okay,
you're defeating yourself.
What's the sense?
Yeah, what's the sense? You know, why would you want to go ahead and cause physical harm to a place that you're living on for your children?
Correct. Yeah.
You know, leave it a little bit better for them, and impress into them that, you know, you really got to think twice about what you want to do. You know, I think you have to conserve. You have to go ahead and always try to improve things. Don't try to, you know, don't be destructive.
Okay.
Be constructive. Yeah. So
okay.
you just gotta do that. If you don't save, where are they gonna go? You know, there's a lot of issues that people aren't going to be aware of. We're very fortunate, you know, in where we live, and I hate to be in some other states, you know, like California, between the earthquakes and the fires and all of that, you know.
And the smog.
The smog. You know, we live in a very nice area.
Yeah.
And I believe that I'm not a tree hugger. No. But I firmly believe that you got to save the tree.
Right. Yeah. I respect your stance, because you tend to be very pragmatic about it, in that you understand the need for certain things, but you're consistent in your defense of respecting the environment, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Well, I run on it, I bike on it.
That's right. It's your playground.
It's my playground. I want to protect my playground.
Right. Don't ruin my playground.
Don't ruin my playground. It's my sandbox. I don't want you.
Right. Okay. I'm going to finish with a question that I started with. I try see how this works over the next few episodes, but if you could. We've kind of covered this, but if you could give advice to young people, forget about specific towns or just a young person coming up, is there anything that stands out as advice from John, or anything you'd like to share.
Keep yourself active.
Okay.
Get yourself involved.
Okay.
Get a good education.
Okay. Use
your education for improvement. Be constructive, not destructive.
Beautiful.
I firmly believe that. Get involved because this local involvement affects change. And if you don't believe it, there's something wrong. You can see it. Once you get involved, and you can affect change and make the change for the good. But like I said, be constructive, not destructive.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Pleasure, Mike.
Pleasure. Yes. And now I'm going to request that all of the citizens of East Granby take Mr. Rusnock's advice and get involved. And one of the ways you can get involved is to join in and help out with GCTV, Channel 16, and help to expand the programming by taping town meetings, or you can, if you get involved, you can actually produce some of your own shows. And I'd like to thank Mark Bombard, who's in the studio right here, and once again thank my guest, John Rusnock.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again,